Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. In this video I want to talk about the platforms or systems that Battlefield is released on. Because as we all know, since Bad Company 2, Battlefield is not only available on the PC, but also on the console. Actually, that's not quite true. The first Battlefield game that was released on the console and PC was Battlefield 2 in 2005. But while the console and the PC version of Bad Company 2 were pretty much the same, they were very different for Battlefield 2. What PC players got was fully optimized for that platform. No shortcuts, no compromises in the design or the available features. The console version, which was called Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, did have quite a few things in common with the PC version, but overall it was very different. Not just because of the very different console hardware, but also because of the different input and display devices, which required quite a lot of optimization to create a good game. Despite the issues that Modern Combat had, where a lot of them were caused by the not very powerful console hardware, it still managed to build up a solid fanbase. And when I last played the game a few months ago, then there were still people playing that game online on the Xbox 360, which is quite astonishing when you consider how old it is. So that was before the Frostbite engine. What we see today is that players keep fighting over the question which platform is the most important for Battlefield that the developers have to focus on. While the developers keep reassuring the gamers that they want to provide the same experience on all platforms. With every new iteration of the game and the platforms, we keep having the same discussions. We are going around in circles while it's so clear that the most important platform is the PlayStation. Unless you bought an Xbox, because then it's obviously the Xbox. But if you bought the PC, then it's the PC. My point is that every gamer will tell you that his platform is the most important, because he bought that system. No one will tell you that the system he does not own is the most important one. So all these fights and arguments are absolutely pointless and focus on the wrong problem. No player wants that the game offers the same experience on all platforms. What we all want is to get the best possible experience on the platform that we own. And that can only be achieved by properly optimizing the game for every single platform that the game is released on. Because otherwise you will continue to have all players on all platforms to suffer from the compromises and cutting off corners that had to be done due to the special needs or shortcomings of another platform. Because you know, the goal was to deliver the same experience on every platform. It is a little bit like the maps in Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 that were designed with the idea of supporting extremely different game modes like Rush and Conquest in one single map. What you end up with is a map where only one of the two modes works brilliantly and the other one is just horrible. Or you have a map where both are mediocre. You cannot sit on two chairs at the same time, you have to pick one. Or you sit on the floor, and sitting on the floor is obviously not what you want to do. So gamers should really stop those idiotic fights that go like, my PlayStation is better than your Xbone, go home PlayStation, no PC Master Race! This goes nowhere, it helps no one and it is a waste of time and energy. Every one of us loves to play video games. And every one of us wants the best possible experience on the system that he owns. So it's really not about electing the most important platform to get the developers to focus on that one. Like one platform to rule them all. All this energy that we waste on these pointless fights about which platform is the most important should be redirected towards making the publishers, the studios, but also Microsoft and Sony aware that we want and expect the best possible experience on every platform that the game is released on. And to give you a recent example, this would mean that in Battlefield 4, the PlayStation 4 should also get the network performance overlay, and not just the Xbox One, because only Microsoft allowed the SLA to put this feature into the spring patch. In terms of gameplay, UI and map design, there are also differences between consoles and PC. And here especially the PC version did suffer in the Frostbite generation of the Battlefield games, as console-specific designs were simply forced into the PC version. In fact, the developers do have quite a hard time to get any PC-specific features into the game. If a change does not work on the console too, then there is next to no chance that it gets into the game at all. Then there's the server situation on the console. There's just no justifiable reason why it is so much worse than on PC. Not just the availability of servers in different regions or countries, but also the utterly lacking admin tools if you decide to pay for your own console server. And that Sony and Microsoft still appear to block a community test environment on their systems is just I don't even know what to say to this. Another thing is, why do PlayStation owners play on different Battlefield servers than Xbox owners? I mean, you obviously don't want to have PC and console players on the same servers, that would be quite unfair. But that the console community gets split here does not really make much sense. Especially when you consider that the current gen consoles are nearly identical when it comes to the hardware, and the game itself is also the same. And the actual Battlefield server that both systems connect to is also the same. In the studio, the developers can even join the same server with different platforms. The reason why we don't have cross-platform gaming in Battlefield on the consoles is not that it's technically impossible. It is once again corporate interests that are in conflict here, which prevent this from happening. In my job, I'm involved in project development since about 7 years now, and I see exactly the same happen there. Sometimes we want to integrate support for a third-party software or service because it would be great for the consumer, it would be great for the product. But more often than not we get shut down by one of the guys upstairs because there's a conflict in corporate interest, as this third party is already collaborating with one of our competitors. Sometimes you just want to bang your head against the wall because that kind of thing does not allow you to let a great product become an awesome product. And in many cases it would only need the consumers to team up and raise their voices so that the corporation reconsiders their decision. And they then start to see that this would actually be good for the company and not just the consumer. So on Reddit you will find a topic that I started last week after I had a nice chat with one of my viewers. And this topic is pretty much about the same things that I just talked about here in this video. Now, one of the questions or comments that came up pretty quickly on Reddit was that optimizing the game for 5 platforms is insane. And I agree. However, 4 of these are console versions, and this means that they have a lot in common when it comes to what kind of user interface you need to design for them, what input device they use, what output devices they are connected to, etc. So basically we have 2 platforms that you need to design or optimize the game for. One is the PC and the other one are the consoles. But as long as the developers continue to release games on the last generation consoles, you could say that we have 3 platforms that they need to develop and maintain the games for. And this reminds me again of Battlefield 2 and its console version Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, because as we can see in Battlefield 4, the idea of providing the same experience on all platforms no longer works with such old hardware. This decision did not provide the owners of an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 with a satisfying experience, and at the same time it was holding back the versions of the other platforms. The goal has to be to provide the best possible experience on all platforms, and with such great hardware differences between the console generations, the developers have to put more work into these versions, so that they can have much more system-specific features and designs. Which brings me to the next point that came up on Reddit. This simply costs too much. First of all, it's concerning that gamers start to defend publishers and studios with such comments. Every consumer should first and foremost be interested in the quality of the physical or digital product that he buys. How the company that is building the product manages to achieve it, that quite frankly the consumer does not have to care about. So, as I mentioned before, I have now 7 years of experience in product development, and during that time I did learn 1 or 2 things. Now, those of you who say that optimization of the product or game, in our case for multiple platforms, costs a lot of money, are absolutely right. Production and maintenance does cost more. It does not cost 2 times as much, as it's not exactly 2 different products, but it's not that far off. But here's the thing. If we decide to optimize our product for different kinds of consumers or platforms, then this means that we will make less profit from this iteration of the product. But in return we get more satisfied customers, and a satisfied customer is a loyal customer. This means that if you plan this long term, then you can use 1 iteration of your product to build it for the future, to prepare it for the future, so that this will become your foundation from which you build the next version of your product. And when that one goes on sale, then you have a loyal consumer base which you built with the previous version or versions, because they were happy with what you gave them. They trust you that what you sell them is worth their money. Sometimes you need to cut down on how much profit you expect to make from 1 iteration, so that you can prepare your products for the future, to get a good reputation for your products and your company, to build a satisfied and loyal consumer base, because in the long run this is good for business. If your plan is to make quick and easy money for the executives and the shareholders at the expense of your consumers, then this is the quickest way to run everything into the ground, at least if you sell physical products or services. Because for some unknown reason, gamers tolerate quite a lot of bullshit compared to when a physical product does not meet the expectations of the consumer. So no matter on which system you enjoy playing your games on, no matter how many years you have been playing video games, every single one of us is a gamer. And as gamers, we all enjoy video games. We all want the best possible experience on the system or systems that we own. So it's really time to stop those fights about which system is the best. It's time to show those who make the games and who make the systems that we want them to give their best and to do what is in the best interest of us gamers, of their customers. Gamers, it's time to team up.